Another day in the struggle. JR, how you doing? We're going to have a talk about homeschool record keeping, how to do it, and why it's very important. And the why is important to understand because a lot of homeschool families are very freedom-oriented people who feel that they don't have to answer to anyone else. They don't have to answer to governing bodies, which anyone who follows me knows I can greatly appreciate that sentiment. But I figured this would be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about why it's so important to keep homeschool records, and then we could get into how to keep these records. By the way, if you have any questions about what I'm talking about homeschooling, your child's homeschooling, the records themselves, feel free to ask me. I'm happy to have you here as I'm currently probably the most banned man on this app at the moment. So, but I have been doing some things that are exciting that I would like to talk about. And I'm going to talk about it all in the context of keeping proper records and being anti-fragile, protecting yourself from the unforeseen that could happen in the future. Because homeschooling is a major step toward freedom and living an independent life. But with freedom always comes personal responsibility. And I was on my Instagram page yesterday, Classical Learner Today, Instagram, and I had posted a meme about homeschool record keeping in which I was just educating my flock, so to speak, about record keeping. And I like to go back to record keeping time and time again because a lot of parents don't understand how to do it and they don't understand the importance of keeping proper records. So I had made this post and someone wrote under the comments that we homeschool because we want to be free and a free man doesn't answer to the government. So I then replied something along the lines of, homeschool records belong to you. Those are your records, and you can do with them as you please. And keeping records doesn't give the government power, it gives you power, right? These are your records in your file cabinet because unforeseen things, unfortunately, do happen in life. So then I took a screenshot of his comment and my reply, and I posted it in the stories, and I overlaid it with the music. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Now, do I think anyone's coming for you? No. But, hypothetically, let's say that one day you've been homeschooling for 3 or 4 years. Hey, Alabama, how you doing? Did you know that e-girls want to be called, I don't care. I'm not in that world. Yeah, that's just, to me, that's hell. And I think anyone who watches that stuff is supporting people, is supporting something that really is designed to demean women, to hurt young girls. Like the whole pornography industry, a lot of them they're there because they're drug addicts or because they came from horribly broken families. They're trafficked, really. They're taken advantage of. It's really disgusting. So your kids can have a future. What if their future, they need those records for employment? Yeah, so that's one of the things. So we're going to get to that. So when you keep proper records, let's just say, hypothetically, laws change, culture changes. For example, there have been articles put out by Harvard University, which these are think tanks designed to begin applying pressure and creating a paper trail so that they could change laws and then, justify doing things to you. So there have been Harvard think tanks that have written articles about, homeschooling being a bad thing. Tips for what we should do when things get worse in January. How are things getting worse in January? Elaborate. I'm happy to answer. I just don't know what you mean. So we have to assume as homeschool parents, as people that are taking personal responsibility, who appreciate freedom, that the laws could change or the bureaucracies can change. So what if you homeschool your child for 3 or 4 years and then some bureaucrat knocks on your door and they want to know what you've been doing to educate your child? Is your answer to them going to be, I'm a free person, I'm allowed to homeschool, it's the law? Well, things change, right? And now, if you get a court summons or something of that nature, right? Anything of that nature, and you have to go in front of a judge, and they say, what have you been doing? If your response is, I'm a bad boy, I do what I want, well, you might be setting yourself up for failure, for the mandates and supply shortages. I don't even know if I can talk about that stuff right now, because I don't know if you guys realize this, but I'm like the most banned person on the planet right now. Speaking of which, I did start a new page, Cubs to Bears. If you could all follow my new page and support it. I made it last night. I just reposted 3 videos and got like no traction on it, but assuming they are allowing me to get traction, let's just say I have something up my sleeve. State laws are very important to know. Right, you're homeschooling state laws, and you can find them at homeschoollegaldefenseassociation.org. So, you want to make sure that if something is to ever happen, right? I'm not saying you have to give these records to anyone. Like, that's, you decide what you want to do. To me, I don't have a problem reporting to the local school district if it's the law, but everyone has their own comfort level. But whatever your comfort level is, whether you think you could be completely outside of the beast, hey, God bless you. I hope you do great. If you ever get that summons, if you ever get that bureaucrat knocking on your door, you will want to have a record saying, these are the classes that we've taken. Well, we'll get into what you need with the records. This way you can make a strong case, right? Because unfortunately we do have to make the case sometimes that you have been doing schooling and that you have not been neglecting your child, neglecting the education of your child. Better to have them and not use them, right? Better to have them and not need them than need them and not have them. That's the answer. And I really keep talking about this because I know so many homeschool parents are in that mindset of, I don't need the records. And I see how the system sets people up and it walks you into a trap. So right now, that might be fine. But 3 years from now, will that be fine? And you can't just go back and get those records. You got to keep those records, right? So it's very important that you keep records. Yeah, autocorrect. Very important that you keep records. Now, there's another side to that, which, again, it's just nonsensical. The idea that you wouldn't keep good records is one day your child is going to want to get a job, or one day they're going to want to go to college. I understand that's not the objective. I don't want my children to go to college. I'm probably the most anti-college, not anti-college, but I think it's a scam for the most part, person you could come across, but you want your children to have options. Now, you can't apply to college with no records, right? So by not keeping them, you're limiting your child's options. So we want to keep good records, or maybe they want to get a job. Well, again, they want to have some type of resume, whether that's of their extracurricular activities, whether that's maybe they want to get a job working for a local mechanic. Well, they want to show that they've taken some courses or have done some work in the area of mechanics. How do you keep records? I mean, keep everything they do on paper or write them down. So I'm going to get into the information you have to be aware of, and then I'm going to get into how to keep those records. So I just wanted to establish, and I think it was worded very well by Habanero Mama, that it is better to have records and not need them, hey 420 Drya, than need records and not have them. So as homeschool parents and in the homeschool community, especially, we've seen in the last 20 months, right, how quickly mandates, I'm not going to say laws, mandates could change, and how authoritarian that could become very quickly. So anyone who's telling you, like, pumping their chest, I'm free, bro, I'm free, I don't need records, they're not giving you good advice. I'm giving you good advice. It is very important we as homeschool families in the homeschool community keep records of the education our children have received. Now we're going to talk about what those records are. So the first thing you need to do, you say, oh, well, how do I do this homeschool record keeping? And I have done entire shows on this, but I'm going to cover it today. By the way, if everyone could follow my Cubs to Bears page, it's Cubs to Bears on TikTok. I made it last night because, I don't know, I'm like the most censored person in the world right now, so that's unfortunate, but when you speak truth to power, I guess that's the way the cookie crumbles. Public school limits kids. With homeschooling, the possibilities are endless for their minds. Yikes, I need to know this. I don't save much. Well, that's why we're having the talk, because I was getting into that, think about the last 2 years, how quickly mandates and laws change. You don't want to get caught, so-called caught with your pants down, right? Or caught with your hands in the cookie jar 3 years from now having no records. So you just got into homeschooling. And by the way, that page is Cubs to Bears. I started a new TikTok page. Please watch those videos, like those videos, share those videos. And I'm going to do some pop videos later this week and try to grow it real quick. I've probably had about 25 to 30 videos with over 50,000 views. So assuming I'm not being shadow banned on that one too, then I shouldn't have too much of a problem growing that account. We'll see. So you want to keep good records. So you go to Homeschool Legal Defense Association. Do you post on Brighton.com? I don't know what that is, but I'm going to take a screenshot of it because I need to diversify. I've been frustrated the last few days. I hope that's not coming off in the streams. It's frustrating when you work so hard to spread a good message and to fight for freedom and liberty, and you write children's books about freedom and liberty, and you teach families how to homeschool, only to have all of your work wiped out overnight. And then, like, to a social media company, like, right now I'm trying to run an ad on Instagram, and I don't think they're letting me run an ad with my books, like their children's books. It's just, it really is quite a world of authoritarianism we've come into, but no despair, and I got to do better. I got to figure out how to get around it. That's my problem. That's not the system's problem, right? I mean, it is a system problem, but the system doesn't care, right? They're, as George Carlin said, it's one big club, and you ain't in it. You're still helping, though. We appreciate it. Yeah, thank you, so I really appreciate your support, especially over the last week, just with everything. But yeah, if everyone could check out that Cubs to Bears page, just even if you saw my video because it's a repost, just watch the whole thing so it goes to the For You page and just whatever. But let's just say I might do a cool video with the katana sword later this week, because if you have a new account, you need a little bit of theatrics to get going. It's a censorship-free website. Lots of channels and videos. Fantastic. I hope they do shorts. Brighton. I took a screenshot of it. I actually found one last night that someone had recommended to me yesterday. Like Habanero is a good one. Thanks. Some think it's bad for kids, but the risk of public school is worse. Yeah. So, all right. So you go to Homeschool Legal Defense Association, and they have a map, right? And the map has all 50 states on it. You just click on your state, and that has the regulations that you need to be aware of. And the reason you need to be aware of that is it will list the age range through which your children are required by law. I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice. Don't listen to me, just guy on the internet. Required by law to receive formal schooling. So, for example, North Carolina, children need formal schooling from age 7 to 16. So if your child is between the ages of 7 and 16, you better make sure that you're keeping records during those years. It will let you know if there are mandatory subjects to be required in the state that you live. If there are subjects that are mandatory, you just want to make sure your records show that you've covered those mandatory subjects. There are mandatory state testing. So again, if you can't get an exemption, if you can, great. I don't really care about it. I'll have my children take the test. I don't care about that. They're homeschool children. They're smarter. They'll do better. But you want to make sure that you document that your children have taken these tests, right? And so on and so on. This way you've dotted your I's and you crossed your T's. And if any bureaucrat ever knocks on your door, if anything like that ever happens, you can go into your file cabinet and you could pull out the detailed records that you have followed the letter of the law. And if you do that, you have Teflon. You have protected yourself, in my opinion, not a lawyer, not legal advice, but you've protected yourself, at least you've attempted to, from any unforeseeable events that might happen in the future. So to me, that's just obvious. And now we're going to get into a little bit of what those records should look like and what you should keep in your file cabinet. I'm homeschooling first year. By the way, if anyone wants to help me with social media, because I'm going to try to organize and expand my operations, just email me at classicallearnertoday@gmail.com. I'm homeschooling first year. What is the best for record keeping? Like worksheets we do. I take pictures because we don't write in books, so we can pass the curriculum along. Yeah, so with your homeschool records, and again, go to Homeschool Legal Defense Association and read about your specific state. So I'm talking in generalities here, but these are a few generalities that everyone should be aware of. So for like a college transcript, for example, your homeschool college transcript, it makes it easier to quantify. The colleges don't necessarily want to know which curriculum you used. They want to know which subjects you covered. So to me, when you keep the records, you want to list every subject. So like we did 11th grade American history. We did, whatever, 9th grade global history. Covered that subject. Then what I would list the subjects covered. Then I would also list the materials used. Make sure those materials look very good on paper. The subjects covered, the materials used, and any portfolio type of... By the way, if you guys can hit the like button, it really helps me out. God knows I'm censored these days. And any type of portfolio information you could put in there. So whether that's an essay your children wrote, a project you don't have to have a crazy amount of portfolio info. Not like you don't have to save everything your children did, but if maybe just one thing, one questionnaire, one project for each subject, just to show that you did something, I think is a very good idea because it protects you and it creates that record. Now again, for the transcripts, they really just want to see the subjects covered. So you do the subjects covered, the course material used, the portfolio information, any grades your children received. Now keep in mind that when your child receives a grade, that could be a formal test, that could be a verbal conversation you had that you made into a grade, whatever it might be, but you keep those grades. Hey, Mr. B. I won't censor you. You can go out into the world. You got to go over here, though. He's stuck. I'll get him out after. And then you want to keep a record of the schooling hours. Now, keep in mind, every state has a mandatory number of schooling hours that your children are required to take. So when you keep your records, you want to make sure that you show that your child did receive the mandated number of study hours. Now, how you went about calculating those hours, what constitutes those hours, you have a lot of flexibility, right? But you better make sure that the hours that were required, you covered. You better make sure the subjects that were required, you covered. The testing that was required, you covered. And if you do and you can do that with, yes, field trips too. You can do that with, just keep basic attendance sheets, right? Maybe you fill it out at the end of the week, just 7 days a week. So I would keep attendance sheets. You could do it on the computer. So you could show, look, I have these attendance sheets of when my child was clocked into schooling. I have the record of the subjects covered, the curriculum used. I have portfolio information. Who do you think would be better off if things changed the way they did in 2020 and people come knocking on your door? The guy who took my advice, or the guy who took that other guy's advice who was like, if you're free, you don't have to answer to the government. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? No one is more personal responsibility and freedom than me. But because I've been through trials and tribulations, someone as censored as myself, right? I understand the importance of dotting your I's, crossing your T's, being anti-fragile, right? Let's just say, I don't know if I want to get into it. Let's just say the things I've done, I've had the privilege of being contacted and developing relationships with some very, very impressive people. People who homestead, who live very freely outside of the system. People who dabble in stuff that certain circles of the internet, they'll tell you, oh, that stuff's not real. Like sovereign type stuff that I don't even want to get into it. But like, people who do things that you wouldn't even think are possible, right? And actually have helped me on the side with the stuff I can't even talk about. I'm not even getting into it. And the reason they're able to live truly sovereignly, and you can Google what that is and what I'm talking about. Seek and you shall find. And then I can tell you people I personally know. So when like you get these guys in the internet like, oh, that's just a myth. No, it's not. No, it's not. I don't do that because I understand how much personal responsibility it takes. Because when you try to live that way, if you slip up, they'll put you in a prison cell. Right? Because they don't want that. The system doesn't want that. So I understand that freedom, right? A man who sold his house, moved his family across the country to make sure he could live out of debt, grows his own food, homeschools his children, right? Runs a business that's currently the most censored business on the planet. Right? Freedom requires personal responsibility, so we have to keep these records. And I know like I beat the dead horse, but because I'm the homeschool guy and I get contacted by so many families, I'm always posting about homeschooling, I see this a lot from families talking about, oh, I don't have to keep records. I don't have to keep records. And I could just go along with that and make them feel good. Like, yeah, you're right. But I wouldn't be doing them. Like, people don't like to be told they're wrong. Like, it doesn't serve me to tell people, no, you're wrong. Because then they're like, how dare you? I hate you, right? But I'm not going to lead my flock. And like anyone who's in my homeschool community, I consider my flock. I'm not going to lead you astray. And if you are not keeping these records, you are making a big mistake. Big mistake. By the way, if you want to join my private homeschool community, that's Homeschool Together. Homeschools Connected, promotion code. Homeschools Connected. It's a link in my TikTok profile. You can find it. And it's promotion code Together, and it's $10 a month. You get access to me, my research, my community. If you want to support my new TikTok page, which I made last night, that's the Cubs to Bears. CUBSTOBEARS, Cubs to Bears page. If you guys could, I posted 3 videos last night. I haven't even done it today. I've been trying to like restructure my social media, and it's been taking all my time up, and it's been an emotional roller coaster. You know, like, you prepare for this stuff. Like, I understand I'm in the freedom space, but like to have all these social media companies kind of converge down on you, it's a little overwhelming at times, but no despair. I'm already branching out to new social media companies. Definitely follow me on Gab. I think they have the best platform out. I'm trying to run ads on Instagram, although apparently they might not let me run ads on my books. It's crazy. Just crazy. Children's books. children's books. It's just amazing. Ironically, one of my books is about social media censorship. Nostradamus in the house. All right. We make up a lot of... Oh, yeah. Oh, so that's the last thing. I'm going to answer your questions. Let me just... I don't want to forget this. So the last thing you want to document is, and this is like the coolest part of homeschooling, is any unschooling stuff, right? Like, if your child is outside building a shed with dad, right? Like, or mom, whoever's building it. But if you and your child are outside building a shed and they're learning about construction and carpentry, well, you want to document those as schooling hours. You want to document that as extracurricular courses covered. Everything you do is extracurricular. Maybe they want a playground. Like when I move to the homestead in a couple of months, or hopefully next month, I'm going to build a playground with my son. Like, he's going to do the hammering, and we're going to build him a whole playground. I'm going to let him design it. We're going to do the budget together. Like, we're going to do everything, unschooling at its best. And that's all schooling. Like, he's going to be learning carpentry and construction and skills, right? So we could even do some marketing with it when the playground's done. Maybe my son and I will make a video inviting his friends, like a video invitation, marketing, and he's 3 years old. We'll send it out to his friends, and they could come to the playground. He could host. Maybe my wife and my son will cook a meal or cookies or something, so that when his friends come to the event, he has cookies for them, right? So this is unschooling at its finest, but you want to document all of these unschooling things, all of these extracurricular things, all of the field trips to the museum, to the aquarium, the family vacation you went on where you visit these historical sites, because you want to have a document so powerful that no reasonable person, again, it's your document, but you don't want any reasonable person to be able to look at that document and say you have neglected your child's education. You want them to look at that document and say, wow, they have attendance records. This child has done the mandatory hours required by law of schooling. This child has covered the mandatory subjects required by the state. This child has taken the mandatory standardized testing. This child has been on field trips. They have done unschooling, extracurriculars that have greatly exceeded that of which happens in public schools. They have gone on field trips to museums and aquariums. They have taken a phys ed class at the local gym. You want to have these documents and portfolio that you could show to anyone and say, back off. Freedom isn't free, and I knew that, so I kept records. It's amazing to me. People who don't know anything about freedom telling other people not to keep records. I will never lead my flock astray. Sorry if I'm coming off a little angry today. I'd be dishonest if I was saying I wasn't. I've been a little down the last week, but needless to say, that only gives me a little fight. It's one of the TikToks I wanted to do, and I never got around to it. Maybe I'll do it with on my new Cubs to Bears page. Is that scene from Batman, like using the audio, Batman Dark Knight, where the Joker is he has Batman's girlfriend, whatever her name is, and he's like, you want to know how I got these scars? Well, and he's talking to her, and he's like, oh, you got a little fight in you. I like that. And then Batman just pops out, and he's like, you're gonna love me. Oh, I love that. I gotta make that a TikTok. I gotta be like, banned from social media. Ah, you got a little fight in you. I like that. You're gonna love me. Oh, hey, listen, that's why I got out of debt. That's why I moved with my family across the country. They could unperson me. I'm gonna be me. My grandfather fought in World War II. My father volunteered for Vietnam when he was 18 years old. Oh, the trials and tribulations of social media censorship in 2021. Get lost, Zucker nerd. It is frustrating, though. Things to start now. Well, I'm going to answer that. Let me just read the other ones. I want to get all your questions about your specific homeschools, about record keeping, whatever it might be. Keep in mind, I'm not like the all-knowing. please go to Homeschool Legal Defense Association. I'm not a lawyer, I'm not any of that, but I do have a handle on things. But you want to make sure you dot your I's, cross your T's, and make sure you're within the regulations. So anything you have to keep. We make up a lot of hours throughout the day. We use everything as a learning experience. That's great. And that's what it's all about. It's unschooling at its finest. Any tips on when both parents work full time? Yeah, so local Facebook co-ops are great. Connect with people. Facebook's a great tool for that. Right? Everything's a tool. Like, even like the metaverse is coming out, and like we all see that, and we're like, you see the gross things it's going to be used for. But like the metaverse could, as a tool itself, could be positive. I was listening to Owen Benjamin talk about this yesterday. Let's say your child wants to learn to be a mechanic, right? Well, if you could put on the 3D goggles, have a car in front of you, and your child could take an instructional course on how to build a car up, and it's like 3D and you're doing it, well, that's a good tool. If you have your child in the metaverse all day playing video games and doing who knows what, well, that's a terrible thing. So everything's just a tool. So Facebook could be great for finding co-ops in your area. Homeschools Connected, my private homeschool community, promo code together $10 a month, actually has an apparatus to connect people in the same state. It's not really going to be viable, that function, until I have like 1,000 people in the community. I'm just not there yet. The country's too big right now for the number of people I have. It's like I have people in the same states, but they're like 3 hours away from each other. But I want to get it where people are actually connecting. But you could call local museums, ask if they're having any homeschool events. Call your local gym, ask if they have homeschool phys ed classes. Call the trampoline place, bounce you. Hey, do you guys have any homeschool events? Go to the events, network, connect with people in your community, and then make an agreement where like, hey, I'll take your children on Monday, you take mine on Tuesday, split up the instruction, get the grandparents involved for a day, split that instruction up, and you take the burden off of yourself as those working homeschool parents. You could also supplement some curriculum that's completely child-led. So like maybe for math, instead of you doing the math with your child, you have them do time for learning, a computer program for just that math, because it goes at the child's pace. They advance when they reach a certain level of mastery, right? And yeah, you get it. So it takes some of the burden off you. Great, I love this idea. And so anything we do, we document as school hours. I certainly would. My daughter already knows sign language, and she has since she was 10 months old. They learn it all. Yes, and at that age, all right, first year, all right. People are blown away by the language of my 3-year-old. And they've been blown away from the time he was 8 months old and started talking. And I don't talk about this to brag. I'm talking about it as an educational tool. So my child, the first year of his life, I do this with my daughter now, although I'll admit not as much as I did with my son, but I try as much as you can. You want to be language rich. So when you're around your newborn, talk, but always talk in context, right? Because newborns don't understand abstract concepts yet. Now, it doesn't mean you don't talk abstract at all, but let me give you an example. Oh, you see this cup? Look at the cup. Oh, I have the cup in my hand. Look, I'm going to tap the cup. Tap, tap, tap. You hear that sound? Tap, tap, tap. Wow, let me turn the cup upside down. I'm going to take the cup and go up. I'm going to take the cup and go down. Up, down, tap, tap, tap. Look at the cup. Do you want to touch the cup here? Oh my God, you're touching the cup. You're touching the cup with your hands. Can you tell me what it feels like? The cup feels hard and it's in your hands. That's literally how I talk to my son the first year of his life. And that's how I talk to my daughter as well, because what you're doing is their brains are hardwired to learn language, right? So you are creating a language-rich environment, and you see how everything I did is in context? Look at the cup. This is the cup. I'm touching the cup. Tap, tap, tap on the cup, right? Opposed to, hey, look at that cup right there. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. right? So everything's in context with early childhood language rich, read books all the time, all that, and they'll start to pick up on it. Children are amazing. God is great. God is great. God made them amazing, and I pray to God every day that I could be a better shepherd. So love it. Thanks for all the info. Things to start now with a 1-year-old. That's something. Social media is really taking a turn for the worst, but there's platforms like Gab and other platforms that I'm going to be laying this all out because I'm really going to diversify my strategy because it's demoralizing, right? But it's only demoralizing if they take away my morality. So I need to remoralize and I need to diversify. Live free or else. You're in the right saloon, partner. How does homeschooling work in terms of making sure my child is recognized as in school? Well, I'll post the replay to this because I just covered that whole thing in terms of record keeping, but in most states, it is required that you notify your local school district, and in many states, it's required that you have an open relationship with that school district. So you want to check Homeschool Legal Defense Association for the requirements in your state. And to me, again, you guys do what you want, but to me, I think you are setting yourself up for failure if you don't capitulate to those requirements. That's me personally, that's what I would do. You know, everyone has their own strategy, but as long as you do that and you make sure you cover the mandated subject matter, mandated course hours, you should be fine. Not a lawyer, not legal advice. My kids learned sign language too. Babysat a boy that used it. That's great. I'm trying to make that heart explode with the likes. Thank you, 420 Dry. You help lighten up my day every day here. So, hello from Texas. Texas in the house. California. Actually, you'd be surprised. California, it's like homeschooling is the one thing they're good for because in terms of laws, they're actually more flexibility than a lot of states. Very surprisingly. By the way, can we just applaud Gavin Newsom for leading by example? I just feel like he's leading by such a good example now with what's going on with him. And I applaud that, if I'm allowed to say that. How do you talk to grandparents who question your decision to homeschool? Well, every family's different, you know. New York, first time. I stream every day at 12. You might not be able to find my videos anymore because I'm like the most censored person on the planet, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm not the most censored. I know people that I have friends that are more censored than me because I operate in circles of legends that are really, I mean, I have had the privilege of really interacting with people who speak truth to power. And because of that, they're very censored. People like Owen Benjamin, people like Tom Burnett, who I've had the privilege of interacting with, people like Pat Life. He's still on YouTube, actually, p.a.t_life. Brilliant people, not afraid to speak truth to power, that I've had the privilege of interacting with. Tom Burnett's actually running for the mayor in Australia, so if I was in Australia, I'd just be campaigning full-time because he's such a legend. But anyway, I'm quite censored right now. Please do follow my other page, Cubs to Bears, my Cubs to Bears TikTok page. I just reposted 3 videos last night. Got no traction on them, but assuming they're letting me get out of my shadow banned, like I said, I've had a crazy amount of videos get like 50,000, 100,000 views. So I will, if I'm not banned, I'll do that. We'll see. All right. Oh, yeah. So when you're talking to your family, you know, show them what you're doing, right? One of the things you can do is allow them to take ownership over the education. So actually ask them to be involved. Tell them, well, this is what I'm doing. I appreciate your input. And I'd actually love for you, once a week to work with little Matthew, whatever it might be, so that they can start to feel an ownership over the education and they can see the value in it. There's certain curriculums like classical conversations, which actually have very formal structures. So you could do curriculums like that and show them, hey, I have a curriculum, very formal structure. Classical conversations, you actually have meetings with other homeschool families taught by a formal teacher every week. So you just, you have to feel your family out and get them involved as best you can. I have a 5th grader and a 1st grader last year. I'm a great teacher. That's great. That's great. Single parent struggling with what to do. I'll have to end my career, be more self-sufficient. You could look into drop shipping. Start a social media page, get like a Shopify account and drop ship. If you could build that up over time and start to get income that way, or like maybe Young Living is a great affiliate marketing company for mothers, where you could start to earn income over the internet and maybe you could start to have more time at home. But there's a lot of things people could do. My mom did it first. I showed her what we do, and she is 100% backing me up now. Yeah, that's what you have to do. Just because people have this misconception of what homeschooling is, and once they see it in application and how valuable it can be, how much their children could learn, and all of the advantages that homeschooling has over public schooling, it starts to grow on people. But we've all been conditioned by our culture, so we have to break that conditioning. And the best way to break it is through example. So, all right, guys, my private homeschool community, Homeschools Connected, promotion code TOGETHER is $10 a month. You get access to myself, my research, the community. I post the replays to the YouTube Classical Learner page. I'm Classical Learner Today on Instagram. Allegedly, there's this page, the Panda Bear, on Instagram that's totally not ran by me, but for some reason they plug my books. They made 2 pages like 2 days old. They're really based, hilarious. They're doing comedy. I don't know. What do I know? And on Gab, I'm Classical Learner, and I am going to be venturing out and finding out some other platforms. So, all right, guys. Again, please go to the Cubs to Bears TikTok page, follow it, watch the videos, heart them, share them, help me get to the For You page here, because I made it last night. I just reposted 3 videos last night, and I didn't even post anything this morning. I don't know. But let's just say over the weekend, there may be a katana sword. Do what we can, people. All right, guys. Freedom isn't free. We have to earn it every day. And I'll be back tomorrow at 12 to earn it.